Welcome to the Gig Bag. On tonight's show, Chris will be doing some of his usual testing, and our interview is with the wonderful Steve Reich. See, now I know what that is.
Yeah.
But do you want to explain to all the other people what your...
It's clapping music by Steve Reich.
And how is it normally performed?
Well, with clapping and two people.
Oh, come on,
okay,
do it then.
Fair enough.
Do it.
I can't, you need to do it. You have to do this.
Yeah, but I can't do it.
Do that.
Okay.
And then it's... Yeah, something like that. That's the first thing.
That was the first time
That was
ever.
actually not bad,
I
was it?
actually got it right.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my god, okay.
Anyway, and it goes on from there, and eventually it's like starts moving, and then it goes back in unison again, and it's pretty cool.
Point is...
Anyway, that's one of Steve Reich's really famous pieces, and he's really cool because he's like one of the innovators of minimal music, and he's won like a Pulitzer Prize for his composition Double Sextet and stuff, which is really cool. And he's very cool.
He's
Very
amazing,
cool.
and
I
we're
think I've said that
absolutely
already.
in love with him. And if you can see Chris being all nervous right now, you can imagine what it was like before the interview.
That's true, that's true.
So let's go and check out the first part of our Steve Reich interview.
Thank you for coming and having a chat to us today.
My pleasure.
I've heard various of your early influences. Just wanting you to clarify like what you were listening to when you first started composing and studying music.
Well, I think what really got me to become a composer was listening to The Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky, listening to the Fifth Brandenburg of Johann Sebastian Bach, and Bebop, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, and Kenny Clark, which I heard really for the first time when I was 14. So, I mean, the music that I played beforehand on the piano was kind of like dutiful, but not inspiring. So 14 is when the candle was lit. I got out of Cornell and went down to Juilliard, the big conservatory in New York City. And at Juilliard, I continued my composition studies. The great thing about being there was write a piece. There's so many musicians, you just get it played, write another, oh, that's no good. Write another piece, try to improve it, that's no good. And I discovered John Coltrane. Listened to Miles Davis at Birdland when I was a kid. I had to sit in the kiddie section because I couldn't drink.
That'd be an amazing gig to see, actually. Yeah.
And then, studying music which I really didn't like. I mean, I could admire Boulez, I could admire Stockhausen. I like Berlioz being Italian, it was much easier to take. And not really being close to Cage as music after 1950 anyway.
You were mentioning that you're influenced by jazz and you listened to a lot of jazz and went and saw like Coltrane.
Right.
Has there ever been any aspect where you brought jazz influences into your music, even in an improvisational way? Or?
No to both questions. I was also, I spent a better part of a summer in Ghana studying Ghanaian drumming. And I spent 2 summers, 73 and 74, studying Balinese gamelan with Balinese teachers. And in all those cases, I felt, what do I want to do? Go back to New York and pretend I'm Balinese? What do I want to do? Go back to New York and pretend I'm a jazz musician? What do I want to do? Go back and start African music? I mean, what I wanted to do was to be able to think like an African, to think about the way they organize sound, the way Balinese have interlocking patterns, the way John Coltrane stays put on a particular harmony without their sound.
You have a vast variety of influences and you've experimented with a lot of different musical ideas and techniques over the years. As you said, African drumming, Balinese gamelan, looping phasing.
What would you say how important the aspect of experimentation is for you as a composer?
Well, I do my experiments at home. When I get out in public, I do what I think is a solution. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. But I don't think the idea of experimenting in public is a good idea at all. I think the idea of experimenting, as much as possible, to see what you can learn and then how you can apply that is crucial. And when you stop doing that, in a sense, you're dead.
I see you discovering the phase shifting through your It's Gonna Rain loop. I would see that as experimentation because you just jumped onto the idea that you saw developing there.
Well, I could say it was a divine gift, and I perceived it as such and seized on it. Want to argue?
That's very true. No, not at all.
No, I'm joking because
I don't argue with Steve Reich.
What I'm saying is that you can view the world as accidental, and you can view the world as completely divinely planned, and it won't make any difference. What makes a difference is how you live your life.
So, Chris, have you actually run out of ideas of gear to test?
No, why do you say that?
I don't know, because you're bringing in your own stuff to test.
Yeah,
to
that's
show
valid
people.
gear I can road test, isn't it? No one has told me otherwise, that I couldn't.
Oh, it looks a little bit like I am Chris, and I brought in this toy gear, and it's mine, and it's so beautiful.
That's not a toy,
And
that's serious
I'm so
musical
amazing.
equipment.
And I went to New York, and I met all these people there. So, no, it's okay. Just keep going.
Jeez, are you finished? Anyway.
I could keep going.
Anyway, so it's a really cool amp that I brought in. Anyway, not just because it's mine, because it's really light and it's a cool new piece of technology. And it's handmade in New York, and I had a tour of the factory, which was really cool. And, anyway, let's just cut to the clip. All right, here today we've got the Aguilar Tonehammer 350. This is the little brother of the recently released Tonehammer 500 by Aguilar. This one, though, is the 350 watt version one as opposed to 500 watts, which doesn't have an effects loop like the 500 or a second output for a speaker. It's only got one, but both of those amps are based on the Tonehammer preamp circuitry that they've got in those pedals. It's got Class D power amp technology, so it's really, really, really light. So you can stick it in a gig bag and walk to a gig, and it's no issue carrying that around. Let's have a look at the front panel. We've got a few controls here. We've got gain, a mid-level and mid-frequency, bass, treble, master, a drive control, just like the one off the Tonehammer preamp. So you crank that up with the gain and adjust the master back a bit, and it starts to drive the amp. And it's not bad drive sound, not bad. It's got a lift, ground lift and stuff for the DI out, as you can see here. We're going straight into the computer, so you can hear exactly what the head sounds like, unaltered. And we have an operate mute function. So when that's pressed in, the amp works, which is pretty cool. Oh, and also up here near the input jack is a -10 dB switch for active basses. So that's the front panel. Let's have a listen to what sounds we can get out of it. I've flattened the EQ, so nothing's being boosted. The gain and the master are pretty much even. I'll press the mute button so the amp's engaged. I've got this jazz bass which has 2 single coil pickups which are just flat at the moment and a tone rolled up. So let's have a listen to what it sounds like. Okay, so let's have a look at what it sounds like when I start putting the drive knob up. So we push that up a bit, and we'll chuck the gain up, but we'll alter the master so we keep a constant volume. And that should start driving. So you can get quite a bit of distortion out of this amp. and it's pretty gainy when you start boosting up the drive knob and the gain here. And you can get sort of more rocky, like overdriven valve amp tones if you kick it back a bit. Not exactly, but pretty good for a Class D power amp. So that is the Aguilar Tonehammer 350. I really like it, obviously, because I've got one. It's made in the US, which is awesome. There's a shop on Broadway up on the 7th or something floor where they all hand wire these and stuff. So it's pretty good, made in the US, and it's under $1,000 for one, which is pretty good.